It's great having you with me today on Paint a Beautiful Picture. This is episode number 230, Money Issues. I have done a lot of financial counseling in my lifetime, and I was once sharing with a person how she needed to develop a budget. And she said to me, "Budget? That's a very bad word." And she wasn't getting around. She couldn't stand the thought of putting constraints on her spending, which was part of why her financial situation was in the kind of mess that it was in. Someone shared with me recently that they've got to start developing a budget because they're seeing their money go places, but they're not always sure where it goes. It was also great being around my grandsons because one of my grandsons, at least, is a very conscientious saver. And that was why he was able to go out and get himself a really lovely car when he was in a car accident recently and his other car was totaled. So he took that money and the money which he had in savings, and oh my word, the kid is only 18 years old, but he drives a way nicer car than I do, maybe than I ever will. But he believes in paying cash for a car, similar to my thoughts on the idea. My son passed that on, and he's doing really well. So here's what a budget will do for you. Let me describe that to you first. If you have a budget and it's a manageable budget, not an unrealistic, straight jacket, can't spend a nickel kind of budget, but a realistic budget, it allows you to save. It allows you to spend without guilt. It allows you to pay all of your bills comfortably. It allows you to feel really at rest. And frankly, it even allows you to feel great about what you're doing with your money. Every human being at some point in every culture has to handle responsibilities about money, even if it's just shells or beads or not the kind of money that we're handling, crops, a bartering system. There's always some kind of exchange, and in most cultures in today's world, that exchange is money for goods. If you're not any good with money, you will not have as much of a good life. The pun was actually intended. So let's talk about a budget. You need to have a number of things in place. Of course, you've got to have an income. If you have inadequate income to cover the lifestyle you have, something must change. You must either get a second job or you've got to give up something that you think that you need, but you don't. The things that you do need are air, water, protection from the elements, which is some kind of clothing, and generally a house that provides you a roof to keep you out of the elements, some form of transportation, but not everybody in the whole wide world needs a car, much less two. I was on an airplane recently, and there was a gentleman nearby having a conversation with another passenger saying, "I haven't driven a car in 22 years. I have health concerns that keep me from being able to drive a car. And in this world, in today's age, it's very manageable living without a car. I call Lyft or I call Uber. I'm just fine. I take a bus, I take a taxi, I take a subway." Yes, you don't need a car. All right, so you establish what you do need and how much money that costs. Now, if you're living in a $400,000 house, so you have a payment of, $3,000 a month and an electric bill of 600, but you're only earning 8,000 a month, or we'll cut it back to 6. Yeah, dude, you got to do something differently. I mean, you're not going to be able to make it every time. Or let's get a whole lot more realistic. You're living in an apartment that costs 800 bucks a month, and you have a car payment and you have car insurance and you have a cell phone and you have an internet bill. So your bills are like 1,400 a month and you're making 1,500, but you can't afford to eat. Yeah, that's not going to ever work. That is not a workable thing. You've got to get an apartment that costs a lot less. You've got to get a roommate who's paying 400 a month so you can have a little bit of wiggle room. Yeah, or else you've got to get a second job. You have to look realistically that what you're earning and what you're paying out are pretty close together. They can't be miles and miles apart to the negative, because all you're going to do is be frustrated, out of your mind, and scared and worried and anxious most of the days of the month. That's not working out. That is not how it goes. So you establish a budget based upon your income, and you say, So I can allow 40% of my paycheck toward the cost of my housing. That means if I'm making $1,000 a week and my housing is $400 a week, in other words, I'm making $4,000 a month and my housing is $1,600 a month, I'm good. Then I've got to throw in electricity, propane or natural gas, the cost of my internet, the cost of my phone, the cost of my home insurance and my taxes. Well, you might be up to 60 to 70% now. If you have a car and car insurance, gasoline, and car maintenance, you're already in trouble. See what I'm saying? So you have to lay it out. All right, let's talk in very raw terms. We're going to go on $1,000. I realize it's crazy in today's world, but it's a number everyone can relate to, and hardly anyone can relate to 10,000 a month. So that's why we're going to use the 1,000. I realize it's a very, very low amount. I get that. That's why I'm going from there. So as a parent, if you're talking to a college student or you're talking to a kid who's a senior in high school, they're probably going to be able to relate to these numbers. All right. So if your rent is $300 a month, and with your electric bill and your phone bill and your internet, you're at almost $500 a month. Half of your money is going for housing. Okay. All right, that's how it's going to be sometimes when you're on that kind of a budget. So 500 is automatically gone. All right, so your car, we'll say you have a $100 car payment, which I don't know of anyone who does, but again, we're using such a low budget. We're talking to someone young. You're trying to help your young person understand budgeting. And if you don't, you can expand these numbers. You can go to, okay, I got 4,000 a month, so I can multiply this times 4. It's easy. But so I have to maintain my car. I have a $100 a month car payment. So I'm up to $180 a month just dealing with my car. Well, $680 of my money is gone. I have $320 left. I got to put gas in my car, and I've got to buy food. Okay, so we're going to say gas in my car is $40 a week. That's $160 right there. I'm down to $200 a month. By the time I buy food, and I do mean going to the grocery store, not going out to eat at 10 or 15 bucks a day, because that's going to take all my money away in just a few days, and then I'm going to be hungry the rest of the month. Do you see what I'm saying? Then you also have to allot for entertainment and savings. Big, big thing. Because if you aren't, you're going to go spend entertainment money. You're going to, and I include clothing in that. When you're young, when you're older, you have to include clothing in the big, broad scope of a budget. I'm talking in really generic, simplified terms for you. The point being that you need to get a handle on where all that money is going and why you're always broke. And if, in fact, your monthly needs and your monthly income are reasonably aligned. Because if they aren't, as I said, you might need to sell your house and buy a more modest one. You might even need to sell your car because you can't afford a $550 a month car payment and you need to get it down to about $300. Or you might need to get a second job and commit yourself to getting all that debt off of your head and out of your way. So you're going to do this for a year. It's going to be hard on everybody. But at the end of the year, whew, you can finally breathe because some of this stuff got taken care of. You know, money issues, they cause people to kill themselves. I mean it. They really do. If you don't believe it, look at the crash of the market back in the 20s and how many tens of thousands of people committed suicide over it. Money issues can cause you to commit suicide. It certainly causes fights. It's the second leading cause of fights in the United States of America in marriages, and hence the second leading cause of divorce. Money difficulties are very detrimental to a good relationship. Money issues can also kill you in that they cause massive amounts of stress. So all that cortisol, all those negative hormones running through your body can cause you to have a heart attack or to have a stroke. Money issues are huge. I mean gigantic. People who steal in stores and cause the average cost of retail goods to be 20 to 30% higher for people who are paying customers, that's a money issue. Those monetary issues affect every single one of us every single day. Person's ability to pay for health care. Notice I never even hit health insurance because the average young person doesn't pay it, but you've got to include it in your budget. You've got to include things like dental cleanings if your insurance doesn't cover it, contacts if your insurance doesn't cover it. I'm telling you, there is so much to think about monetarily that you need to learn to look at a budget and say, okay, here's what I have to deal with: housing, transportation, clothing, health care, entertainment. Those are the big five, in my opinion. And if I left something out, please forgive me. So you've got to learn how to manage money. And one of the greatest things you can do as a parent is teach your child to manage money. I'm going to review this for you because it was very helpful to me, and both of my sons have thanked me repeatedly. And so I know it's a good thing. And I even talked to my grandsons about it just a little while ago when we were on a vacation together for Christmas. And that is, when my sons were young men, I mean 10, 11, 12, I sat them down every month as I did my budget, as I wrote the bills. They literally knew the amount of income I had. They saw the amount of money that went out. They understood why and how I processed what I did with our money. When they would come and say, Mom, I need this, and I'd say, we don't have the money, they knew I wasn't just saying that. They knew exactly what was going on in our fiscal world inside of our household. And both of them understand to this very day how money works and what to do with it. One of them is a good saver, one of them is not really very good at it, but I taught them both the importance of saving. Here's the last thing I'm going to say to you, Mom and Dad, as responsible adults. If you are working, you need to save so relentlessly that you have enough money in the bank that never gets touched to pay 6 months worth of your bills. One of you gets hurt, one of you gets sick. For 6 months, nobody has to worry or be frantic because that money is set aside to take care of you. If you are a young parent, 19 to 25, you are not at that place yet, but you need to work at it. I don't care if you put $5 a week in that savings account. It might take you a couple of years to have 6 months worth of bill pay set aside, but that is your goal. Make sure that you have enough money in savings to pay 6 months of your bills if anything should happen. It will also motivate you to be a better saver if you save up for the down payment on a car, for the down payment on a house, or maybe even pay for your car with cash, like my one grandson did. Learn to save. That is paying yourself. Paying yourself for the future, paying yourself to give yourself space to have peace of mind. Okay? Budget is not a bad word. Learning to handle your money well and responsibly is a gift that you give to yourself. And when you pass it on and teach it to your children, it is a gift that you give to them. I hope this has been helpful for you. Please leave me a comment or a question or suggestion. Understand this is far from exhaustive. It was merely conceptual to help you see that you need to make a budget and you need to learn how to manage your money as well as you can so that it takes away the stress and the frustration of constantly feeling behind or inadequate. I'll see you again soon on Paint a Beautiful Picture. You may find additional information on our paintabeautifulpicture.com website. Additionally, you may watch me on Rumble, and you may also listen to a podcast on Buzzsprout or Spreaker, all under the name Paint a Beautiful Picture. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. You may subscribe, and if you are interested in receiving notifications, please hit the notifications button.